In this video, I want to show you how we can use the NetKey application inside our TriCaster. NetKey is a tool that will allow you to send keyboard shortcuts across the network that can be directed into a target application. Now, there's a few things we have to set up to make this work. The first is we need to install the appropriate files on our TriCaster. And so through the download, you'll unzip it. There's a batch file you'll run. Install that on your TriCaster. Just run that batch file and it'll put all the files in the appropriate location. We also need the NetKey server application, and I have that running on another computer here. This is a little Windows application. It does require the .NET 6 runtime. If you don't have that installed on your computer, it will direct you to download and install that. But once you get those pieces in place, you'll open it up and you'll get this little window that opens, this window that we're looking at right here. There's three things that we need to know to put in the proper information in our macro. We need the IP address of NetKey server, we need the application name, and then we need the keyboard shortcut that we want to send. NetKey server is going to help us with two of those. The first is the IP address. That's simple. It is displayed in the upper right corner of the NetKey server window. So that's going to be the IP that we need to enter in. The next thing we need is the application name. Now, this may or may not match exactly what you expect it to be, but there's a little window inside NetKey server that will help you with this. So if you go to the file menu and you go to application list, this window that opens up, this shows you all the applications that are currently running on your computer that have windows, right, that should accept input that you can direct from NetKey server. So as an example, let's just say I start up Notepad. Here it is. I'll hit refresh. You can see there's Notepad. So that will be the application name we would want to enter into the plugin. Now, in my case, we're going to send some commands into live text. You can see live text right there. That's this window. And I'm also going to send some keyboard shortcuts into NDI test patterns, which is this window over here. That happens to be application.network.testpattern. So that's what we're going to enter in is the appropriate name. So let's go back into our TriCaster now and start typing in these macros. So here we are back in the TriCaster. Let's go take a look at a macro. And the one we're going to take a look at here is, we'll start with test patterns. And so here are some I've already built. We're just going to take a look at some existing ones. So let's go edit this one. And here is how you're going to enter one of these macros. So under the shortcut column, you're always going to type ext. And under the value column, you're always going to type NetKey. After that is where you need to start filling in the information that we've gathered. So under the key 0 column, you're going to type host. And under the value 0 column, this is where you're going to type the IP address of the system running NetKey server. So you can see I've already got that entered in here. Then under key 1, you're going to type app name. And for the value 1 column next to that, this is where you're going to type the name of the application that should receive this keyboard shortcut. Now, capitalization is not critical, but everything else is. It has to be the right letter spelled the right way with the right punctuation. So don't worry about uppercase, lowercase, but everything else does have to be exact. And then finally, the last column is keypress. And then in the value 2 column, this is where you're going to put in the keypress that you want to enter. Now, in some cases, if it's just a direct thing that's typable, you could just type it. Like if I want to send the letter A, I could just type A, and that would be the same thing as sending the letter A across the network. Now, in some cases, you might need to send a shift, an alt, or a control with it, and that can be done with some extra keys. If I want to do a shifted A, I can type a plus in front of it, and that would do a shifted A, which technically in this case would be the same as typing a capital A, but you could also do it this way, would result in the same thing. If I need to do an alt A, that would be a %, and then an A. And then if you needed to do a control, in this case, you have to send a little hat symbol, which is a shifted 6 on my keyboard. You actually need to send it twice in a row. It's just a limitation of the batch file that's being used to send this, but that will account as one control key being pressed. And if you press A, that would do a control A. And you could certainly do multiple together. Like if I needed to do a control alt A, I could put all of those characters in, and that would give me control alt A being sent across the network. Now, in some cases, you're going to have non-printable characters like function keys or arrow keys or page up or page down. Those can be done by putting them inside brackets. So in this case, I actually want to send a left arrow key. So that is just curly bracket left curly bracket, and that will be the same as pressing the left arrow key on the keyboard. There are other keys you can send, and there's a list of those in the PDF documentation that comes with the NetKey plugin for your TriCaster. Go to that link and you'll get a list of all the other non-printable characters. Now that we've got this entered in, let's try it out. So I've got a few examples I want to show you in here so you can see exactly how things respond. Let's start with just everything that's working correctly. Let's say I'm going to send a left command. If I run it, you can see that it just moved, in this case, over to the left one spot on NDI test patterns tool. Let's move to the left one more, right? You can see it just moved over and the test pattern selected. Here's one that moves to the right. Now I want to show you what happens if you do some incorrect functions. Let's say you try to send a command to an application that's not running. There is some feedback that you can get in the notification center up here. So let's take a look at that. Here is one where I'm sending the key into an application called application.network.testpatterns2, which is not running on the system. And so if I run this, you'll see that nothing happens, but in my notification center, I get a warning. And if I open it up, it tells me that it could not find that application. So I know that on the destination system, I'm not currently running the target program to receive that keyboard shortcut. There's also a different message you can get if your IP happens to be incorrect. Like in this case here, I don't have anything running at .16 on my network. If I run this, you'll see it will take it a moment before it responds back because it's trying to find that IP address. Eventually it gives up. And if I open it up, you can see that it says that nothing responded back from that IP. Now, normally, you're not going to get any messages appearing if processed correctly, but it is possible to put those messages in. If we go and take a look at the up command, there's one additional field you can add in here. It's optional, but if you put feedback, you can put yes in here, and this will say always put a message in the notification center regardless of what happens. So if I run this macro, you'll see I get a green message because it correctly processed the message, and you can see it says that it just sent an up command to that application. There are 3 sets of feedback you can have. Yes will always report a message. You can type no, which will never report a message. Even in the case of an error, you will not get a message fed back. Or the default, and therefore you really wouldn't have to enter this, but technically you still could, is a feedback of error. And this is what you'll get if you don't put it in. So in this case, you'll not get a message if everything was good, but if there was a problem, like no IP or the destination application not running, it will put up an error message letting you know that there is a problem. So just want you to be aware that that exists. The other thing that's really nice about NetKey is that if you're running multiple applications on the target system, it will bring it to the foreground. So we've been playing with NDI test patterns. Let's say I want to work with my live text application. I could go select that one, and let's go to the next title live. I've even got keyboard shortcuts set up for this, so I'm just going to use that on my TriCaster here. Shifted plus will select it. You'll see it brought the application to the foreground, and it just changed the title. Let's go to the next title, and you can see that each time I press the key, it is directing the appropriate keyboard shortcut across the network into live text, and live text is responding. And in this case, I'm sending a alt page up command or page down command, depending on which way I'm going here, to go between the different titles that I've loaded up in my pages. So hopefully that gives you a good idea on how to use NetKey with your TriCaster to direct commands into external Windows applications.